What is up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 2 of season 3 of the VR Link. How are you all? Thank you to everyone in the chat for joining us today. A couple of shouts out. We've got Bubble Blue, Doody, P Crutch. How you doing? Ready player Rick, Mr. Trinidad. Nice. Dark Angel, thank you ever much for joining us each and every week, pretty much. Who's got? Oh, Mrs. GT. Shout out to Mrs. GT. It's her birthday today. So happy birthday to my lovely wife. Where are we? So, this is your weekly Wednesday podcast. You can find us live on YouTube and currently Twitter at the moment at 8 p.m. GMT, 3 p.m. EST, and 12 p.m. PST every Wednesday. On this show, we discuss the latest news, games, and goings on inside virtual reality. My name is GT from Gamertag VR, and alongside me is my co-host Matt from BMF. How are you, Matt?
Excellent. Excited for today.
Yeah, so am I, because we've got a couple of stars of us. This week we are joined kindly by Dr. Beef and Baggy G. How are you, gentlemen?
Hi, good, thank you.
Hey
guys, how's it going?
Good stuff, good stuff. For those of you who want to follow the show and listen again, you can on Spotify, Apple, and Anchor. All you have to do is search the VR Link podcast, or you can use the links in the description. If you enjoy the show and want to support the channel, you can join these legendary patrons and channel members. All their names are listed below. We've also got a Discord with over 1,100 members now. Thank you ever so much to everyone who's in there, all sharing the latest VR news, conversations, and doing multiplayer meetups. So yeah, how is everyone in the chat? Thank you to all the happy birthdays. Jeff Bob, thank you, man. Thank you ever so much for the donation. What has everyone been playing? Guys, what have you been playing this week? We'll start with our guests. What have you guys been playing this week?
Well, Grant and I were playing a bit of Pro Putt last night, which was quite good.
Yep.
Yeah, love a bit of that. A sort of pre-podcast chill out session, which was quite nice. And yeah, that was good fun. Though I was playing shockingly badly, apart from one or two beauties. The rest was awful.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's the other golf game we play as well, Matt? What's the other? There's two, isn't there? There's Pro Putt and there's another.
Walkabout.
Walkabout. Yeah. Have you tried Walkabout at all?
I haven't tried that. No.
Yeah,
that one's really fun.
One.
Yeah.
That is really good, man. That is really good. What about you, Becky G? What have you been playing this week?
Well, it's been a disappointment, but I'm trying to catch up on my Dr. Beef thoughts, and I'm on, I think, the very first one. So I'm about 2 levels short of completing Quake Quest. So yeah, I'm trying to get through that. It's been pretty fun, actually. I never actually completed Quake when it was first out.
Yeah.
So, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, I didn't actually play Quest until I played a little bit on the PC, and then I think I played it mostly. I think N64 got a release of Quest and of Quake, and I think it had like a multiplayer as well. That was really my first thing, and then you had like the expansion cartridge. I can't remember if it made use of that, like to get higher res images and stuff, but that's pretty cool. What about you, Matt? What have you been playing?
I've been checking out quite a few different things on App Lab this week, just messing around with the stuff in there. I played some hockey yesterday, which is pretty cool.
I know, I saw that, dude. That is out of all the App Lab stuff so far, because I've seen a lot of it before because of side quests and stuff. When I saw that, I was like, I really want to get into that, because you said is it multiplayer as well?
Yeah, 3 versus 3 multiplayer.
Oh my god, there was a game years ago on the Master System. I think it was called Slapshot. That was like my favorite. Can you have punch ups?
No, I don't think yet. They are working towards a whole bunch of new stuff, and it takes some getting used to skate, because like momentum actually comes into play. So you don't just stop, although you can slow yourself down and stop by using one of the triggers. But it took me a little bit to get used to, because I was trying to, dribble the putt down and get it to the goal, and I kept missing the puck and I had to turn all the way around like you actually have to do. So it takes some getting used to, but once I get used to it, it's pretty fun. I haven't played it online yet because I made an absolute fool of myself just playing in the practice area, so I wouldn't want to go online quite yet.
So is it multiplayer? It's not just 1v1. I take it. How many players can you have? And
it's 3 per team.
That's good.
Yeah, so they've got it set up right now where you hop into a practice arena when you first start, and you can set how hard the goalie is, and you have to try to hit it in with the goalie, or there's a target you can hit it at. There's some cones you can skate through, so you can get used to skating.
Yeah.
And then you can hop into a couple different rooms. They're public rooms, and then I believe you can actually create a private room and invite friends in with a code, so they can all come into the same room.
That is awesome. And that's on App Labs now.
Yep, that's on App Lab.
That's crazy, man. App Labs is pretty big. We're going to talk about some App Labs soon anyway, because I noticed the conversation between Mr. Beef and John Carmack the other day. I was like, what's going on? Yeah, so what have I been playing this week? Basically, I've been going online with the community. We've done some On With VR last night in B Haptics. Absolutely love B Haptics. I absolutely love B Haptics. It is like the Rumble pack for me from my N64 all over again. I absolutely love it. And like shooting the LMG with the arm attachments was fantastic. Like it was just so good. And I think they've done something to the sounds in Onward as well, the gun sounds. They seemed a lot more, I guess you could say, realistic, more individual. You know, you could all the guns did sound a bit different. I don't know if that's something in my mind, but I'm sure someone in the chat said they've updated that. And yeah, checked out Population 1. Looking forward to Season 1. That's coming pretty soon. I don't think there's been a date on that yet. Is that...
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. What about you guys? You loving Pop 1?
Yeah.
We had a few games last night.
Yeah.
You can't.
I actually noticed your stream you were playing war mode, but like I saw you like shooting one-handed with an AK. Is that like the way to do it? Is this?
Oh, was that you? Was that you in my chat? Someone in my chat was like, "You got a two-handed AK," and I was like, "No, man, I can't." Like, I don't know. I just feel better single, like one arm in that thing. I know. I think the the UMP is probably the most accurate SMG. What's the other one? Is it the MP5? I think it's the MP5. That's got so much kick on it.
Yeah, I just shoot over everybody's heads when I'm using that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just warning shots.
Yeah, but the AK for me is a real deadly weapon. A real deadly weapon. So look at this. Let's have a look in the chat. We've got Dr. Beef, Decepticon. Oh yeah. You know who else loves Dr. Beef? Says Lethal Weasel. It'd be his mum. He likes talking about his mum a lot. So his mum is what they play. I haven't got my sound thing set up today. I was gonna actually put it up. I haven't had time. I was gonna like add cheering and all sorts of things and explosions possibly. So yeah. So let's dive in. Let's start talking about the beef and what is happening. Like, how did this all happen? Where did it all start for you in virtuality and stuff?
Right. Well, assuming I'm going first, I think it all really kicked off for me with the original DK1, the very first Oculus Rift, if you can call it that, when it came out. I think 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I missed the Kickstarter for that one, but I managed to. Well, I then bought it via whatever means was the way to do it back then, and yeah, from there it's just been a sort of love affair with VR really. Basically it was then a case of just getting involved in the sort of modding side of things. So there was an injection driver at the time called Vireo Perception that I sort of dabbled with a bit, and that's where I met Grant Baggy G, and yeah, and our sort of friendship has grown from that, and we've worked on a variety of things since then. Yeah.
So I mean, like, so for example, when I discovered VR and it changed my gaming life, I didn't think about getting into the modding scene. It just didn't occur to me. I never thought about it. I just thought, what can I do? And I saw the share button on PlayStation, and that was it. I just started streaming from the PlayStation. So, how do you get into the modding thing? Like, what? Do you know what I'm saying? There's two obviously different doors.
Yeah, well, I'm a software developer by trade anyway, so part of me is always thinking, oh, I wonder what I can do with that. How can I tinker with this to, see what is possible. And so from fairly early on, I was tinkering around with some of the samples that Oculus gave with the dev kit, because obviously it was intended for development at that stage. So yeah, it just sort of went on from there really. And obviously, even though it's a dev kit, people wanted to game with it, understandably. So, but at the time, it was just thrown together Unity demos or Unreal demos, and then, the real win was the actual proper AAA titles, so like Skyrim and BioShock and whatever. Just being able to play those in VR, albeit rudimentary, was quite tantalizing. So, these injection drivers were around, and sort of got involved with that because it was kind of half wanting to just tinker with a bit of code and half wanting to actually play some proper decent games in VR.
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of went from there really.
What about you, Baggy G? Is it roughly the same sort of stories? Or?
Yeah, similar type of thing. I actually, because I saw the Kickstarter happening, and I sort of kicked myself because I didn't get it, and my girlfriend's wife, the wife now, so I went, no, like it's just they're gonna take your money, you will never see it. So I didn't get it, so I missed out when the CV1 came around, getting a free one. But I jumped on, and like from the very first time I put it on, I knew I have to get into it. But much like Simon, I was just motivated by the real lack of content that's out there. And there was just a few things that were nothing more than just 5 minutes here and there. And I just thought, how can I just experience more? And at the time, video seemed the way to do. And I thought, well, I'm going to get into it. I have to sort of teach myself, DirectX 9 injection to be able to help with that or something, and do game profiles. But yeah, really just motivated. But I actually met Dr. Beef the first time. There was a forum at the time meant to be seen 3D, and there was a conversation going on about people trying to already upgrade the DK1 screens to get it HD. And there was, I think it was a Slovak or Czech company was selling like an upgrade. So they were selling those, but it didn't actually work. And then it was fate. This chap called Dr. Beef came into the forum and had this idea about sort of writing back to the firmware of the DK1 and doing that. And I think I first saw him there. I don't know if we connected much. And then when he joined Vireo, it was all from there. And it's gone DK1, DK2, CV1, I had a HTV Vive, I had a Vive Pro, and then the Quests. So.
Yeah, man. I mean, the Quest has changed the game pretty much. He's changed it massively, and it's quite funny. You talk about demos, like it almost like was VR games were just demos, tech demos, and I think a lot of people were getting very worried at some point. That is this all we're going to get? Are we just going to get like these hour experiences? And they still crop up now and again, but the prices are looking a bit more realistic. As before, I remember some of these games were nigh on full price things. You know what I mean? And you'd be in there for an hour and you come out and be like, what the hell happened? You know what I mean? How did that come about? So we've got a couple of questions coming up. I want people obviously to be involved in the chat as always. If I miss anyone, I'm going to start with Call Me Jay. Question for Dr. Beef. How much of a challenge would it be to do a GTA 3, VC, and San Andreas now they're reverse engineered?
Good question.
I imagine time's a big factor as well for you because...
Yeah. Well, for a start, I mean, I've worked a lot, as everyone's probably well aware, with the id software engines. So obviously Doom and Quake and that lot. So I'm quite used to how they kind of hang together, how they work. I imagine a reverse engineered version of Rockstar's engine is considerably different. So that would, obviously there would be a lot of time have to be spent just getting to know the thing. I think it would be definitely doable. However, at the moment, given that it's literally just been made public, I think we'd want to be a bit cautious about just going straight in there and trying to create a VR version of it when we don't really know how Rockstar themselves are going to receive the fact that they've had an engine reverse engineered and made public. So, maybe you sort of wait a bit, see how the sort of, the engine's received and let it mature slightly. And then, I wouldn't write it off. Certainly, I had a quick look at it and it looks pretty good. And, GTA 3 and Vice City, they were kind of
landmarks.
Absolutely. Yeah, they were the first open world games I played, and they left their mark on me. They were really quite special experiences, and they happened to coincide with a really fun time in my life. So I would love to go back and experience them in VR. So I certainly wouldn't say it's
interesting because some people I talk to, they talk about Mario 64 as like the first open world game, but it kind of, that was like a sandbox, lots of sandboxes. As GTA 3 with me was the first one I remember. You could just drive and go all over, but listen to the radio, and I played the crap out of GTA 3, dude. That just changed the game for me
It was,
ever
yeah.
so much. So that's good to know. But Rockstar, like, when you think about the GTA 5 VR mod, they're obviously not that happy with it because every update you get on that store, you've got to change the script hook and you've got to change loads of things. And it must be, I don't know, I don't think they embrace it. That people have got VR working on that game. Personally, I don't know, but because that VR mod is fantastic. I really like the GTA 5 one. Have you tried that? Have you tried the GTA 5 one?
Must admit, I haven't myself, but I know Grant has.
Yeah, yeah, no, I tried it and I really wanted to try it because I tried it first on like the Quest 1. So it's running at like 72 frames per second, right? But it's interpolated. So it's going like 36. So you like look to the left when you're driving, you get that judder. So I was really excited to try it when they brought out with Link the 90 hertz mode. And it is lots of fun just walking down like what's supposed to be right Venice Beach there. Just walking, and people always say something when they go by. He's done a great job on that.
It is great. It's quite strange how there's a certain level of polish to these games that aren't VR, but when you make them VR, you realise kind of what we're missing sometimes. You know, just random bits and bobs. But then they're high budget games. You know, massively high budget games, and there's a bigger market, so they put the money into it in the first place. Baggy G, someone wanted to know: are you streaming from a Blockbuster video? It looks like you're in a Blockbuster video store.
Yeah, the last one in existence.
Yeah. Oh,
No, this is just what I do when I'm not doing VR. Just read a bunch of graphic novels and comics.
dude, how I imagine that's just a small portion. Like, does it go on and on? I don't know. But you can live in a mansion for all I know, dude.
It's a sort of whole wall, right?
Right.
The sort of whole wall of it. I got about 250 odd. So.
That's cool, man. That is cool. So yeah, so obviously VR made a massive impact on your life, like it has most other people. The games. Let me just play this little. I've got like a little montage of your games and stuff. We've got Doom 3 Quest starting here. The games you particularly choose are mostly, or they are, I think, all VR FPS games. So far, are these the games that just meant a
So
lot?
far, yeah.
Yeah, are these the games that just meant a lot to you in particular, or what's the decision behind the titles you do? And let's run over the titles you've done as well, if you can say them all, if possible.
Yeah, yeah. So the first one was Quake, which was Quake Quest. Then I did Half-Life, Lambda 1 VR,
That was
and
mental.
yeah,
Sorry.
and Baggy G and I did that one. After that, what was next? It was Quake 2, I think. And
Yeah.
then Quest Z Doom. So that's obviously Doom, and then Return to Castle Wolfenstein, which was a lot of fun to do, and is a great game, of course. And then finally Doom 3, which was sort of the the highest bar we thought we could ever possibly hit.
Graphically, hell yeah. I mean, it looks great,
Mm.
and you've got so
Yeah,
many options in there as well.
yeah. I mean, it's remarkable how well it runs on the Quest 2 and Quest 1. In fact, I mean, it's quite impressive. It's all down to the pretty phenomenal engine that John Carmack and co wrote when they're at id Software. But yeah, it's
So what's it
quite
like for
special.
you then, going into these games? You know, because obviously you've made that happen. You've made that doorway. You've seen something you like on a screen and gone, I want to go into that screen.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's pretty mind blowing actually. The first time you get it properly working. The problem is between it properly working and you being in that world and seeing it on the monitor, there's a whole bunch of steps where it just looks rubbish. Like the field of view is wrong. It doesn't track your head. It's like the two cameras are pointing the wrong way and everything. It's just nasty. So by the time you finally get to see it and it looks good, you're like, oh, thank God. It's all this effort. And of course, even before that, sometimes you don't even know that it's going to work in the first place. So you can spend a whole load of time just trying to, wrap the Oculus SDK around this thing, and you're not guaranteed it's actually going to even run. Like Duke Nukem was a good example where I spent a reasonable amount of time trying to get it going, and it just didn't work, and I gave up in the end.
Yeah.
That's not to say it won't happen in the future, but yeah, so yeah, these things don't always work, but yeah, when they do, it's pretty exciting. I think.
And I would say this, like the first time you see it, like sometimes when Simon sends me like the demo, there's that wow factor. But then from the point of that to actually a release, it is playing the first level probably 500 times over and over again, especially in Doom 3. If that Marine welcomes me and tells me to stand on the spot once more, I'm just going to shoot everyone in the whole level.
Mate, like we have to, when me and Matt do videos and stuff behind the scenes, there's some scenes we have to refilm, don't we? But it's not in the number of 500. It might
No,
be,
not
I
that
don't
many.
know, like 4 or 5, and that's enough for us. We're like, we're like, come on. Oh man, that's crazy stuff. That's crazy. You mentioned John Carmack, and obviously we're going to talk about App Lab in a minute. Has anyone of the people who have made these games experienced what you've done?
I don't know for certain, but I am reasonably confident. Well, I know John Carmack has certainly played Quake Quest. Whether he's played any of the other ports, I don't know. I would be surprised if none of them have played any of them. I imagine they've probably seen them and thought, yeah, I'll give that a go.
I just wondering if you got any feedback, because I think if I was one of those people, I'd reach out and let you know, and speak about it, and I don't know,
Yeah, not really.
That's crazy. That seems crazy to me, because if I made a game years ago that obviously before VR, and I didn't get to experience like what was that VR before with the big bloody stuff? I made a video on it ages ago. I can't remember what it's called. I never got to experience it. I was just seeing it on TV. And the thing about virtual reality is you don't know what it's like till you've actually got the headset on. So I think to myself, like, these guys made these games first person. Doom, I think we can all agree, was immersive before VR. First person was immersive. That was the immersive factor. Was the camera went from wherever it was on like a 2D plane into you are in the head of the character, and I thought that was fascinating. First of all, like Shadow Warrior, and as you said, Duke Nukem, and going to the cinema and looking through the peephole at the projection of the naked lady and stuff, or whatever it was. It was like, oh my god, it's crazy. And
Yeah, being able to turn light switches on and off, that sort of thing.
yeah, just it is so good. And so what games would you like to do in the future? What games are you on your like bucket list? You must have a bit of a bucket list for this sort of thing.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, we've on our Discord we've been building up a list of requests, and there's some criteria they have to fulfill for a start, so they need to be open source. Otherwise, we can't make changes to the engine and build these things. So without that, it's a no-go anyway. So there's a number of games still out there that are sort of ripe for the conversion, if you like. Yeah, I think having done Doom 3 though, it's like I've kind of got that. I can sit back a bit and have a little break and
Yeah,
really
man.
decide what the next offering is going to be.
Not only that, the hardware is going to get more powerful. Obviously, it looks like Oculus is going to. I mean, I don't know how people feel about it. Personally, I think every year and a half to 2 years, I think we're guaranteed to get a new device off them in some way. And I'm all for it, to be honest, because I think it'd just bring us bigger, better games.
Yeah,
So
it's going to be like a mobile phone release cycle, isn't it? They're going to try and churn these things out,
yeah,
sell
for
as many
sure.
as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed on Amazon in the UK, I don't know if it's the same in America, Matt, but you could pay for your Quest monthly with 0% interest.
Yeah,
Can you do?
they started doing that a little bit for some things in the US, but mostly no, they don't do that on Amazon.
Right, yeah. And I just thought to myself, that's not too dissimilar from buying a phone. You could do a 12-month plan and buy that, and see how it goes.
And I think a bit like Doom 3 as well, it might be a bit of serendipity that when the next one comes along, might be when some of these other projects, which we're looking at now and aren't quite finished yet, might just be in time. I mean, there is certainly, I won't say the bucket list ones for me, but sort of have the criterion on the edge. It's something like a lot of people mentioned to us, Open Morrowind, which seems to be working. They got it working pretty well, but they've also, from what I've heard, seem to have done a bits and pieces to actually get Fallout New Vegas working.
Right.
and that for me, I think would be phenomenal in
Yeah,
VR.
my favourite Fallout, and it was actually Fallout 3 out of all the Fallouts. I know some people loved New Vegas. I did play New Vegas, but yeah, for me it was always Fallout 3. But I think that was the same engine and everything, wasn't it? It was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. What about you then, Matt? Do you love the Fallout series?
Yeah, I like Fallout. I played both Fallout 3 and New Vegas and preferred Fallout 3. I don't know why, I just really like the story of that one.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking at some of your games now, in the center of the screen, and yeah, they look so good, man.
One of my favorite things to do is go in and play the original Wolfenstein um, on the Quest. I was telling GT a long time ago with the mod for, I think wasn't it a mod for the Doom that you released, that you could play that Wolfenstein. And then as a kid, I don't remember how young I was. It was one of the first experiences I had actually playing a first person shooter on PC, because I liked Doom, but I liked Wolfenstein at that age better. Um, so I played that a whole bunch, but the dogs always scared me as a kid for whatever reason. I mean, now on a flat screen, it seems ridiculous, looking at those dogs running at you to get scared. But I was telling GT a while back that I opened up one of the doors, the dogs started running at me. My first reaction was to want to rip the headset off because it scared the crap out of me, even though it's still obviously visually, it's nothing like what we got now. But it was just that reaction of being in that immersed totally differently. And I played Half-Life, um, the Lambda that you did, and it was just insane. Just standing in the train
Yeah.
riding into Black Mesa was absolutely incredible. It blew my mind when I did that.
Yeah, well, actually, one of the reasons I chose to do that one was because I'd never actually played Half-Life.
Okay.
My guilty admission. And I was sort of fishing around for the next port because Quake Quest had done reasonably well, and it was just like, well, what should I do next? Obviously, this is possible now. And I saw the Zash 3D engine was kind of had its own Android build, and it was a no-brainer from there. So it was like quite nice to think, yeah, I can play Half-Life in VR like I've never had the opportunity to before. So yeah, that was one of the reasons why I chose to do that.
So you've got quite a big team now, I'm assuming, or a team. How many of you do this stuff now? Because obviously community people just get involved, don't they?
Yeah, well, there's only three of us actually. There's obviously myself and Grant, and then there's VR Bumser as well, who
Yeah.
I imagine most people are familiar with from Reddit and Discord.
He's kind of your community manager, isn't he, Bumza, I
He
think?
is, yeah,
Mm.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a really good guy. You see
does
him
a
in a
great
lot of the
job.
chats and stuff, and I did get the feeling he was like a community manager for you.
Yeah, that, and also he does a lot of the testing. He tends to be the one that ends up playing through these things to completion before either of us do. I'll admit I've not finished Doom 3 yet. I'm still playing through it. So, but yeah, and he also kind of does the final bit of tweaking. So where there's ways you can speed it up a little bit, gain a few extra frames per second by changing this value here or there. That's kind of his speciality. So.
And also his trailers. A couple of
Yeah.
VR Bumser's trailers have given me goosebumps. Just
Yeah, we're watching. That's what he's basically playing in the thing now. He sent them to me, and he basically said, "Is it alright if you play them, sort of thing, while we're talking, or something like that?" And I was like, "Yeah, hell yeah, man." How you doing, Alex VR? What else we got? What have we got? Beef Becky G. Do ports use Vulkan or Glez? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, they use GLES. It's
There you go.
OpenGL basically for like mobile phones and things. Yeah.
Nice. Prey VR would be sick. Oh, I loved Prey. That was so
but the
good.
original or the
The
new one?
original, yeah, not the new thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't know who made the new one. Was that EA or something, or I don't know what happened to the
That,
new one.
I've
But
not. There's so many of those old games where it really seems a shame no one is coming and saying, look, we can bring these to VR. I mean, Prey is such a perfect example where if the devs still had rights to it, just said, yeah, either open source it or, contact someone to get it done, because so many would work well.
whatever you said, that man enraged Matt because he's gone green.
What's going on?
Why have you gone green? His Hulk mode has happened. There he is. Let's have a look round. Let's go through the chat and see what's going on. Hello everyone, how you doing? Thank you for joining. Dr. Nightblade talks about the time he felt like when he rode the wagon in Skyrim. Yeah, that is very cool actually. That first time you get in there from that, because I had that on the 360, I think, and then playing Skyrim VR. It's kind of that thing. Pedro, here's a question: is there any game that Dr. Beef would love to port over but knows it's not possible?
I think the answer to that, certainly at the moment, has got to be Half-Life 2,
Mm.
because yeah, without the actual source code and without a fan-made reverse engineered engine like Zash 3D was, it's not going to happen. We get asked about it all the time, and there's a guy who's actually managed to get a sort of Android version of it running, but it doesn't look legit enough, and yeah, legit enough for us to take a chance on actually trying to do anything with. So at this stage, it's unlikely. So, but that would be great. I mean, would be hailed as heroes if we managed to do that one.
Stephen Sales says he's asked John Carmack if he's tried your ports, and he said yes. This was after Oculus Connect in Horizons.
Cool.
Excellent. Mr. Vi, Duke Nukem 3D. Yeah, we spoke about Duke Nukem. It doesn't sound like that's going to happen. Thief. Yeah, I remember playing
I would
Thief.
love Thief. I love Thief.
One possibility with Thief is there isn't really a technical reason why we couldn't get an older version of the Dark mod, if you're aware of that working,
Yep.
which is like
That's
a community-led.
the Doom 3 mod, isn't it?
Yeah. So it started out just modifying the Doom 3 engine, and then they sort of went so far away from Doom 3 it was their own engine. But the one that they were still on the Doom 3 engine is technically doable, but they changed a lot of it. But that's one I personally would like to do. It's one I'm trying to circle back to at some point.
Excellent. Yeah, there's so many games coming up, man. Deus Ex. That'd be quality. Soldier of Fortune.
Yeah, that's another one of those older ones, man, where they really need to like just release the source, just get in contact with the team. There's no reason why it needs to be just abandonware.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I don't know much about this stuff, obviously, but how do you make the weapons go from that 2D thing to the 3D thing where you can just move them around, look at them in any way you want, and what sort of work goes into that?
Yeah, it's a whole load of faff, but like Quake or Quake 2, those weapons are actually 3D models already. So even though they look flat on the screen, they're fortunately actual models. So then it's a case of what the engine normally does is it just draws it in front of your face. So wherever you're looking, it just puts the model there, and you move your head and you move the mouse or whatever, and the model just follows you around. So what you've got to do is basically intercept where the engine is drawing the model and put it where your controller is instead.
That
So
sounds very
that's the visual
simple.
aspect.
Sounds very simple, actually.
Yeah, easy as that.
I think I'll have a go at that.
The other side to it is then, of course, when you're firing, the engine's assuming you're firing from the middle of your face, but you're not. So you then have to get the engine to understand that you're actually firing from where the controller is, which isn't where your head is.
Yeah.
So it's a whole load of hassle, but it's once you've done 6 ports, you kind of know what to change.
So let's talk about your conversation with John Carmack and App Labs. What happened there?
Well, obviously, as most people know, App Labs was released fairly recently, and we thought it'd be quite nice to get some of the ports, certainly the ones that fulfill the criteria for them, onto App Lab, because who knows how things are going to go in the future. But before we invested the time in creating all the sort of assets required for the Oculus Store, we had to, we wanted to know whether it was even worth a punt, because if we spent a load of time, I say it's probably mostly going to be Baggy G creating the screenshots and all the arty stuff that the store requires, and we then submit it and we just get kicked back because for whatever reason we might never even find out. It was worth a punt to find out if at least somebody might reply and give us a vague idea. So we sort of discussed it internally and decided I'd sort of chuck out a tweet and bounced a few suggested tweets around, and I thought, well, I don't think Carmack's going to respond, but what the hell? So he put that tweet out there, and in less than like 2 minutes, I think John
He's a
Carmack
fan.
had replied to me, which was pretty mind blowing.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. I was going to say, I didn't know if you go, yeah, we talk all the time. I didn't know. Right.
No, he's like, it's sort of game dev rock star. Just
Yeah.
responding to a tweet of mine was just pretty wild.
I think it just stokes the conspiracy that Dr. Beef is John Carmack. And just no way is he there. and
He's
not
the
knowing.
evil twin.
Simon just, he switched the accounts, made a comment.
Yeah, I'm just the stand-in. John Carmack standing just outside the camera telling me what to say.
He's laughing.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, that was pretty nuts. I mean, it's not like him and I, have secret conversations or anything. It's I know about as much as everybody else does, based on his single reply. But at this stage, we're sort of not going to do any more with App Labs as far as the ports are concerned, and wait and see what happens, really.
For what reason?
Yeah.
But I mean, because you're not doing anything illegal, are you?
But
Because...
we got a big disadvantage. Whereas if you take like a normal app that needs to be there that just for whatever reason didn't get on the Oculus Store, everything is contained within it. Whereas with our stuff,
yeah,
we're either including like a demo version of the game, which isn't our game to really distribute, and then we're still actually having to do the step where we're requiring people to get on the computer and transfer stuff over. So sort of we only get half the advantage of installing App Lab. And the other part of it is it becomes quite a complicated sort of licensing type issue where we're saying, well, okay, maybe that's shareware anyway, the demos, so that could be included. But then if we're using trailers that are using copyrighted assets, again, it's, which is why I think Carmack's old comment was saying, if we could actually get whoever owns this IP at the end of the day, whether it be Microsoft eventually to say, okay, you've got our full blessing to do this, it's going to make everything a lot easier to do. Whether that means we'd ever see a version that everything is on App Lab, so when, maybe you even buy the game and that you don't then have to buy it through Steam, who knows, but it's a bit out of our
I think if you got to that stage, they want it as an official thing, wouldn't they? I'd assume they'd want to take full control.
Yeah,
of it
but then even then, that doesn't quite work. Even if they said, okay, Team Beef, you go ahead, convert this, because in between the VR port and the original game was so many sort of open source steps where people have converted to Android, where they've made, the engine run quicker. So exactly like Zash for Half-Life, that even the licensing of those steps in between is going to be tricky. So it is a real difficult one to get there.
When I saw it, man, I thought App Labs, that would be amazing. Paulina says, love you, honey. Anyone?
No, that's my wife.
Hey,
Sorry.
Mrs. Baggy, how are you? Nice, thank you for joining. Russell loves you as well, Baggy. You've got a lot of admirers in here. Wormsworth, thank you ever so much for the donation.
If my mum adds though, she loves me, I'm quitting.
Nice. So what games are you guys looking forward to coming out in virtuality this year in particular? Any that you can think of that you're sort of, not ones you're making, obviously, maybe? That is a good point, actually. What would stop you guys making a VR game? Like your own VR game?
Time.
Yeah, I guess there's time. But then you've kind
like
of...
we're both.
Go on, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I've said it to Simon and Bumser as well, like at some point we just have to get our heads together and make the next, Super Hot or something like that, just to get out of this licensing and things like that. And
I mean, the thing is,
go mainstream. But
in my mind, a Kickstarter for you guys is an easier sell because you've already got a name in the community. You've already got a community, and those Kickstarters can change everything.
Yeah, and I mean, like, So I created when Dr. Beef was busy working on Questy Doom, I was doing the launcher. Have you seen it, where you download all the mods and combine them up? And that was all through Unity. So even through that, like, we gained quite a bit of experience actually just doing a normal VR sort of build and putting that out to the Quest. So I mean, it's possible, but yeah, we both work full time. So.
Yeah.
And just the amount of time to produce like a full game is probably crazy, even compared to these ports we do.
Yeah, I was wondering, you know, you could if a demo, whatever else. Like Eric Hartley, who's very experienced and very well known in the VR community as well. Kickstarters for VR aren't so popular, especially for games, and I do get that. And I know what you're saying, but I don't think, in my mind, these guys have already got a name. Like Dr. Beef's already got a name. This show is about Dr. Beef pretty much. Do you know what I mean? It's not like it's just happened. You know, I mean, how long have you been doing this? How long have you guys been doing this?
Be about 6 years.
Yeah, and you don't.
Video.
Do you take donations, or I think I made the mistake once of thinking you took donations, and someone said no or something. Do you take donations and stuff? Or?
We have a PayPal link on the various websites we have.
Yeah.
But we don't do it for the money. That's when people donate, is incredibly generous of them and very well, very gratefully received, and is extremely kind. But it's not about the money. We do it for the love of tinkering with code and seeing these games that we've enjoyed on the flat screen come to life in virtual reality. So yeah.
Sounds like the making of people who can make a good VR game. It does to me anyway. So what do you think about the app lag thing in general? I mean, what do you think about the SideQuest app lab situation?
I think it's, sorry, Grant, do you want to go first? Or?
No, far away.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think
you get in trouble first. Right?
Yeah, see, I'll put my foot in it and you can bail me out. Yeah. I think it's great that they've come up with this way that apps that don't necessarily qualify for the full store experience can be distributed, and you can even charge for them through the Oculus store and stuff, which is very cool. However, and SideQuest is brilliant. It's been, well, obviously it's been a fantastic way for developers like us to be able to distribute their their projects and their sort of the various games and things they've made. And it's the guys at SideQuest, they're just so lovely and really helpful. What worries me slightly is that what Facebook might decide to do is perhaps start charging for developer accounts. If they set up a subscription like Apple do, then that's going to start putting people off from sideloading, because they won't want to have to buy a developer account. So that then means Oculus actually have full control over what they actually allow as kind of sideloadable content, albeit through App Labs with slightly looser restrictions. So, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, they may never do it, and it would be great if they don't, and SideQuest is able to sort of continue the way it is. I think if that does happen and the kind of traditional side loading goes away, SideQuest's role will be more of a sort of App Labs directory, which will, allow it to carry on pretty much the way it is, because it's a great, it's fantastic utility, and it works really well. So yeah, I think I'm not exactly sure where I was going with all of that. But
no. Actually, what you said, I think, is what me and Matt kind of think. Matt, are you?
Yeah, we talked about that last week. After we did the podcast last week, we just kind of sat down for a while and talked about it. We kind of came up with the same worries, I guess, and the same thoughts on what the future could hold. It all comes down to what Facebook decides. Everyone's kind of at the whims of them when it comes to this device, because they've obviously made choices up until now that people don't like, and they don't mind making some people upset. So it really just comes down to what they decide to do, which is kind of a scary thing when it comes to stuff like this.
Although I have some sympathy for Facebook. I know they're pretty controversial, and there's definitely pros and cons, but like take the launcher for Quest Doom, is we started out, we just wanted, right, a launcher people are going to want to bring over their favorite mods. And then we suddenly find out, well, actually a lot of mods, just the Quest can't handle it. So then as soon as you're sort of going down that curated route of content, then it's a slippery slope that gets to the point where you're suddenly in an environment or ecosystem where it looks like we're sort of being favorable with ones, and then people are saying, why was this mod here and why not the other one? A bit like the same argument about why it's to the top, not there, but VR carts was there on the official store.
As you listen to me, that's
And,
exactly my example. That's exactly my example.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that one. But I mean, my feel on it is, I don't think anyone really knows how it's going to end up at the moment. But my feeling is App Lab's going to be great, but maybe just not for Dr. Beef ports.
Yeah, so that then
Just-
that then makes me think about, obviously Facebook and Oculus, they can bring out these headsets at these prices that hopefully attract mass adoption. So what you now need is, like Wolf Rice was saying, they need competition. You need an Android VR device that isn't Oculus and isn't Facebook, and then in my mind this stuff can live on, you know, even if it's a year down the line where all the hardware components are cheaper, you know, and we're on 120 hertz, we're on a high field of view on Quest 3 or whatever it is, but there's like this other indie Android headset that is like spec of Quest 2 that does all this stuff. And I don't know, I mean, that's the kind of thing I sort of think might happen. It's just Oculus just keep evolving quick and put in I think VR has just changed so fast. It just keeps changing so fast, you know.
Yeah, Facebook have got.
I think the mistake, although, sorry, I was just going to say, I think the problem Facebook have got is, yeah, they have got this thing at the moment of VR adoption, where they say if someone comes along, they get a bad experience straight away, they're not coming back until the next generation or something, and just trying to get everyone in. And I completely understand that. I think the problem is that's not really how capitalism works, right? What you really want is the most people sort of saying, well, this is actually what works best, and what naturally is the best VR experience will come out of that. And by sort of blocking experiences along the way and saying, we're going to be the arbiters of this, we're going to block this, you're not giving sort of an open market a chance to actually say something that, you know, they're just going to reject could have been the next killer VR app. And I think somewhere along the way that has to change. And maybe App Lab will allow that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the other thing I was going to say was that Oculus have been in this a long time compared to, you know, particularly the mobile VR side of things. So they, you know, going back to the Gear VR way back whenever that first came out, it's like 2015, 2016 or something. So they've had a kind of mobile VR platform that they've evolved for a long time, and it is very mature now, as you know, anyone can see who owns a Quest and Quest 2. It's, you know, it just works so well. They've managed to make changes to the infrastructure of Android itself to make this thing run so smoothly that any other competitor who presumably only would have been able to start within the last year or two, even if they reverse engineered some of the Oculus stuff, they're not going to have anything viable coming to market that will reasonably compete for some time, I'd have guessed. So it's going to, you know, it will be a while, I think, before we see a decent competitor to the Quest, and they're probably always going to be lagging some way behind, because
It's either that or they're going to be more expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because the war chest that Facebook's got for being able to just throw money at these things and come up with low cost, fantastically powerful hardware is going to be very hard for any other company to sort of, you know, try and compete.
And that's an argument maybe why the Cosmos hasn't really taken off in the same way. So it's that like 600 quid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, one comment just came in from Onakazi, I think is how you say it. Says no competitors mean that Facebook doesn't have the pressure to be better, which we kind of talked about a little bit last week. But then you look at the fact that you've got the Quest 1, and the jump from Quest 1 to Quest 2 was significantly better. in that short amount of time, and the price was lower. So I'm not sure that's a valid argument for what they're trying to do currently, because their goal is really to push adoption as quickly and as fast as they can. I think that better hardware, if you could call it that, isn't really a valid argument at the moment, because they're going to try to keep pushing it better and better until the adoption gets to the point where they're happy for it. So I don't think that the hardware argument is really valid yet. They could get complacent if enough competitors don't come along eventually, but I think the platform is more likely to be the complacent part, not the hardware right now anyways, because they seem full bore ready to go to keep pushing the technology as far as it possibly will go, just because they want that adoption rate.
Yeah. Yeah, I think some people look at specs too much. There's a lot more going on to that headset than specs. You know, there's the whole UI. There's all the Guardian system. You know what I mean? The menus, the marketplace, the events. They're almost making it. They want you to stay in there. They want you to get in there and stay in there and go to the cinema, and they want you to attend concerts, and you know they don't want you to go anywhere else. And that's what I mean. Like I saw one thumbnail come up today, Oculus Quest Chinese competitor, and I didn't even click it because I'm like, I know it's going to be. It's going to say something like it's 90 hertz, it's the same specs, and it's kind of white, and it kind of looks the same, and it's probably going to, you know what I mean? I just think that's not what it's about. You know, to me, there's so much more that goes into it than just that.
If you read some of the like Oculus technical documents, where a lot of the Carmack stuff, the way they've sort of optimized the GPU and the things they do, is really, really cutting edge stuff. I mean, apart from maybe Valve, which contributed a lot with like low persistence and things like that, you know, Facebook are really pushing this forward. And although I know people don't like them, but you know, they've got a plan which isn't for our benefit. You know, they think this is going to be the future, VR is going to be there, and we're going to be the market, you know, leader at that point.
Yeah.
So, you know, it could just be a win-win situation.
I think HTC are one of the people that could compete, but I think you're always going to be paying more. And then it's PlayStation. I think PlayStation could really come in again and do some massive splash damage into VR. Do you know what I mean? If they did that, because of the name, purely the name, PlayStation VR itself is just caused hype for me. When I heard that, I was like, "You're joking!" Like the iToy was fantastic. Everything they've done. That's the only thing though. Most things they do, they don't go back to. They try to do this amazing version of their vision, and then they just go. And I really hope that isn't the case with PlayStation VR. Have you guys all experienced PlayStation VR and enjoyed it?
Yeah, I've never owned one, but I have played it, and it was pretty cool. But at the time, I already had a CV1, an Oculus Rift, so it felt like a little bit of a backstep. But yeah, as a sort of entry level, affordable, mass market VR system, it was really good. You know, and it kind of paved the way for consoles to start making VR mainstream. And then, as you say, weirdly, it doesn't seem to have actually gained traction in that kind of market. But you know, who's to say it might?
It's weird for me, like doing what I do and what Matt does and stuff. Is like before the Quest, it was like PC and then PlayStation, and PlayStation VR was the buzz what the Quest is in a way. It was smaller, but it was there. That was the hype thing, you know. And then as that died down, Quest came. It was sort of like this crossover, and yeah, PlayStation sort of died off, and Quest came in, and
PlayStation's definitely got an advantage, and like I think maybe a part of it is them maybe going, okay, this works for next generation on, you know, get the PS5 sort of hardware behind it, because they've got a couple of big advantages, like a closed system. You know, Oculus has gone down the way of mobile. It's a great way to go. PS5 has got a lot of horsepower behind it. And the other thing is they're exclusives. You know, we've still never seen Resident Evil 7 on PC. You know, and what's the platformer game I saw, which looked really
Astrobot,
fun.
man, Astrobot.
And it would take, yeah, that looks great. And it would just take like a couple of killer games. That's like, I think they're coming out with a new PSVR for PlayStation 5, or waiting for like an imminent announcement.
Everyone's waiting
So,
for it. When,
yeah.
when we spoke about it before, we kind of thought because of money, the advantage in a way, I think people forget when you buy something, you kind of forget the value it's got because you've got it and you take it for granted or whatever. So when it comes to PlayStation VR, me personally, I was thinking, dude, it's only £400 to try PlayStation to buy it. As supposedly there was HTC, I think HTC, but I still needed a PC, so it was looking like I don't know a grand and a half to get in there, and same as Oculus. PlayStation for me was the only viable way to go. You know, to continue that. I didn't realize I was going to buy like every game that come out. I was just like, oh, it's crazy. But yeah, so where do you guys see things going for virtuality? I mean, there's a lot. I think there's been a couple of things where some people are thinking that VR's not going great in some ways because of the Quest thing. Everything's Quest, Quest, Quest. PC VR is slowing a little bit. Titles on that side of things. That worries some people, you know, because you've seen some really good looking games get kind of downscaled to then be cross-platform with Quest. So the people out there who are like, I love horsepower, I love these games looking fantastic. Oh no, it's coming to Quest. Well, I know what's going to happen now. You're gonna you're gonna make the game look bad, and stuff. So what do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. I think the sort of end game for certainly for Facebook is mobile VR. I with the Rift S sort of being discontinued, it's obvious they're throwing all their eggs into the Quest basket, and it's yeah, I think at least we've got Link, so it's not dead yet.
Yeah,
But who's to say? But I think really they want to get as much power into a self-contained unit as they possibly can, and that's kind of the goal. It would be quite nice if they came up with some sort of wireless dongle so that PC VR was kind of truly wireless. That'd be great. But yeah, I think the thing is, people want the horsepower of their PC. If they own a gaming PC and they want to get into VR, they want to be able to combine those two things. So that's where the HTC no, sorry, the Valve Index and headsets like that are really going to win over the Quest, because the Quest is a great sort of versatile device, but if you want some proper PC VR going on, then you're going to buy a proper PC VR headset for it.
I do wonder. I do hope that Oculus do another PC VR headset, but I'm kind of now getting to that point where I'm thinking if I'm going to invest in another headset, it will be the Index 2 or something, you know. Um, but I don't know whether they're going to go with the base station still. I don't know whether inside out tracking is improved enough that they're going to go now it's time, because to be honest, I love inside out tracking. I think it's great, you know.
Yeah.
I wasn't a believer at the start, and then because Simon actually bought a Quest, and I didn't even get one at the start. And I just went, like I don't think it's going to work and stuff. And he was like, no, I'll get one, and like it blew me away. Like going back now to outside in, I just don't see the maybe by shame of this. I don't see the difference there in like the accuracy or something to make it worth it. I know like maybe your hands behind the head in certain games, but I mean I play a lot and I've not noticed it even once.
Yeah.
That's
on
another
the
testament
Quest.
to what Oculus does too, is the magic they've done with the tracking, because they've put so much into that tracking system, even the intelligence, so that when you put your hand behind your back, it doesn't necessarily, it might lose tracking if you keep it back there, but it can still tell if you've got it back there when you bring it in just in the peripheral view of the sensors. So it does such an amazing job that reaching behind your back to grab an arrow feels seamless, even though it's out of the sight of the actual sensors. So that's another testament to the what Oculus has done with their hardware, and taking something like inside out tracking and making it versatile, and it's just going to generationally get better. If we get wider sensors, we maybe more sensors as battery gets better, things are going to eventually evolve. With Quest 3, I don't even know how the tracking is going to be, because Quest 1 to Quest 2 feels better to me. I don't know if anyone else notices it or not, but I feel like even the jump from those two things, even if it's just the power or whatever it is, I know the sensors are the same, but they're slightly positioned differently on the sides for the Quest 2 as they are to the Quest 1. I don't know if they did testing to really see where the optimal spots were. But I know that Quest 1 was great, but I had every once in a while, and it could be the updates too, because every update, some updates get a little bit janky and they have to either roll it back or put another update out to fix that. But as the updates have come, especially since the beginning of the platform, I've definitely noticed a huge improvement from when Quest 1 launched on launch day to what it is now. It is night and day for that inside out tracking even. So that's just a testament to the fact that they're continually evolving the platform, and then the next iteration is just going to be even better.
Yeah.
And I think a big jump there is coming, which will probably or could settle the whole PCVR thing, is them getting eye tracking working.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you've got like foveated rendering, you're talking about having almost PC level graphics still on a mobile platform potentially, with another jump as well. And I think that people are going to see a massive difference at that point.
It wasn't this Facebook Connect, it was the one before, with Half Dome. They talked about the Half Dome headset, and when I saw all that stuff, man, I was like, these guys are so they're gonna make this shit real. they're fully invested in like taking VR that further than anyone else. That's what it seemed like to me when I was looking at all these headsets and all this technology they're investing into it. And like you said, the eye tracking. You've also got the inside out or outside in cameras that are seeing people's faces, so then their faces are in VR as well as like a social experience. I mean,
and we have to remember too that we're just seeing what they want us to see so far, because the Quest 2, they were working on that, I imagine, while they were launching the Quest 1, already knowing full well, because it was only a year and a half after. So I imagine a lot of that groundwork was put into Quest 1, and then they immediately started working on Quest 2 with the updates for that. And obviously they're already working on a next iteration, whatever that is, whether it's a, like you said, a PCVR or another Quest or Pro or 3 or whatever it is. And like I said, when they first announced Quest 2, or it leaked, literally like 2 or 3 months before that was when we got all the information for the XR2. So they were like, they got that immediately, integrated it, worked with them to be able to get this chip put into this headset in like record time, which is insane. So we're just seeing what they want us to see, really, as far as where their technology's at. And if you look at all the crazy stuff going on with brain waves and all the stuff that's getting into VR with that weird stuff and eye tracking, and like you said, GT, face tracking, where you can track your face and use actual facial cues when you're in VR, which could be coming in the future. It's going to be interesting to see where it leads us. And if Facebook/Oculus really are in it for the long haul, we're just going to continue to see those things added over time. And as we seem to agree on, most of us, that it's going to be like that phone system upgrade every year, where the previous generation or two is going to be just as valid, but that new one is going to give you that cutting edge addition that they've been working on. It'll be interesting to see what launches next.
Yeah, for sure. So going back to Talk Beef, we've gone through some questions. You implemented no, yes you did. Hold on. Cyber shoes. You implemented cyber shoes, and when I spoke to the guys, they said you did it very quickly. You put the cyber shoes into Doom 3 Quest. One, are you a fan of cyber shoes? Two, what about haptic support for these games? Have you considered anything like that?
I'll let Grant answer that one.
Over to you, Grant.
No, I actually integrated the cyber shoes into Doom 3, and they sent me a dev kit to try it out. It was really easy to do and I was actually pleasantly surprised how much work they'd put into their own sort of internal logic of having the shoes where you can sort of calibrate it so that they've both got like an internal compass, so your sort of legs can walk in a direction opposite to your head. That's a pretty clever way to do it. I tried it. It's strange. I think the first half an hour, because I was just playing through Doom and thinking, oh, like this is the first time I've tried anything like it. And at first I felt like I was just rolling an office chair through Doom, like I'm on a rolly chair. And then it does get to a point where if you put in the time, it adds. It really depends. I don't think it's going to be for everyone, because I think you lose a bit of the room scale element that you can sort of easily sidestep and jump around a bit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, especially if it's reducing motion sickness for people, I think it's really fun. I think it is a fun thing. So I'd
That's it, man.
recommend people to check it out. And yeah, sort of the this was mainly just the way Dr. Beef structured the Doom 3 and how it integrated with the engine. It was a nice, just from a techie standpoint, to just get basically their input from there, fire it through what Dr. Beef was already doing for the sort of controller input, and then it was just up and running. So it was quick.
Nice. What about Haptics? Is that anything you've considered or tried?
I haven't tried it. However, I have been talking to the Haptics guys, and so there could be something coming in that area at some point for the ports in the future.
That would be awesome. I'm at GT. I was going to tell you, actually, I've got my Haptics Fest coming in. It's either tomorrow or Monday. I can't remember which one it is.
Nice. I love it. I absolutely love Haptics. It is amazing. Arcanian says, GoldenEye 64, fans? VR?
That would be cool, but there's no source code for it. So
No, I think there is someone actually doing it on Quest, but they've had to basically
built it from the ground up, pretty much.
From the ground up, yeah. And I haven't heard from them from a very long time. So
I know.
It's
we get quite a few suggestions where people are saying, "I'll bring this Unity project to Quest," and we're going, "Well, it's already in Unity. Just compile it straight for the Quest." And I think that's what they're doing, right? They're doing GoldenEye in Unity.
Yeah. So Mr. Survivor says, excluding your own ports, what is their opinion on the current killer app or game that is out now for VR? What is your like the game? I guess, I mean, in another way, when I think of it like this: what is the game that you want people to experience first that would sell them VR? Do you know what I mean? That's good. That's to me the killer app.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It depends who the audience is, really. I mean, I've barely been able to get enough Pop 1. I just can't, managed to calm it down recently, but we were just playing that almost non-stop for a while.
I think everyone got into that.
Yeah, kind of delayed the release of Doom 3 by quite a bit, but
yeah. Don't tell them how long.
Well, there you go. Like for me, I think to myself, the one game that I think everyone should at least experience is Super Hot VR. Like, because it had there's a couple of reasons. Is one, there's no movement in it apart from your movement, and secondly, there's that what's the word? That double immersion factor. You're in VR, then you put the VR headset on, and then you go somewhere else. Inception, whatever you want to call it. I think that's a great experience. So, what is your great experiences in VR? You can just say what your favorite games were, for example, or moments you won't forget.
Yeah, for me, it's difficult because everyone does come in at a certain experience level. For me, I would far rather play Half-Life Alyx, even Skyrim VR, even though it was a bit janky the way they did some of the weapons and stuff. Just to be in that world is what blew me away, right? That I could just start walking and I'm going across the map. Everything's sort of consistent within the world. I think beats out, sort of having a smaller VR experience for me. But then, I've been a lifelong gamer, so I'm a different audience. I don't know, what I'd give to someone who'd never tried VR. It's really difficult. But then, I love Beat Saber. Beat Saber's great. Super Hot was great. Pop 1's great, but again, I wouldn't give that to a first timer.
Yeah. I've heard that makes people actually quite ill sometimes. Pop 1. They're like, how do you play this? It makes you feel sick. It's funny. Have you tried the Higgs mod, Baggy, for Skyrim?
Which one's that?
So basically, you get Half-Life Alyx gloves.
Oh, right. No, I've not tried that.
So you get real hands and fingers in Skyrim. That is what I am doing this weekend. It's called the Higgs mod, and yeah. So yeah, that's that looks really cool. It's really cool. Like the mods in Vorpex, but you've also got to add these couple of other mods that do a skeletal structure as well, kind of thing. And it just looks like it's weird. It's gone from a game that has been like sort of made into VR into what looks like actually a VR game. So the fact you brought up Skyrim was the reason I thought I'd tell you about that.
Yeah,
you're gonna
no, I
play with
definitely modded it heavily, but it always just happened to be because like it gets cast to my monitor, and I think I have one of the followers. What was her name? It just goes around saying rude things all the time to you, and every time my wife would walk in, it would be exactly as I'm turned around looking at her.
Nice, nice. What about you? What about you, Mr. Beef? What would you say is your stellar VR moments and stuff?
Well, my first rubbish answer would probably be the Tuscany Villa in the Dev Kit 1. I mean that just blew me away because that was the very first time I put on a headset and saw a virtual world. And I'll never forget the way my stomach turned upside down when I went up the stairs inside the villa. And I've still, somebody actually recompiled it for Unity and put it on side quests. I've actually got it installed on my Quest because every now and then I quite like to go back there. You know, it's kind of a bit of a special place. But yeah, I think for me, probably my most enjoyable VR game would have been Abduction, which I played on the CV1 because I just got completely into that. I was
That's the
absolutely
Myst style game, isn't it?
yeah,
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 yeah.
that's right. Yeah, and I just loved it from start to finish. Apart from one of the puzzles, which was deeply unpleasant, but it was like really good. And it was before the touch controllers were out, so I played the whole thing on a Xbox controller. So um, I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. So yeah, that was great. I mean, that's gonna stay with me till I'm a very old man. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that game.
So Shola's wrote a couple of comments in the chat. I'm just going to pick this one. He's but what are your thoughts on the non what are your thoughts on the non-PC VR enthusiast like us Apple users? I'm not really sure what he's saying about that. I mean, uh, what do you think about that comment? To me, it just sounds like what do you think about people who just don't use VR? I don't know. I'm not
I
sure.
think where I'm trying to see. I saw that one earlier. I think maybe they're talking about people that are VR enthusiasts, but they're not PC VR enthusiasts. So they may love the Quest, but they don't have the ability to use a PC because they have Mac. Maybe
Well,
I don't know.
I would. I've never really been an Apple user, but it always seems to be like even just on regular gaming, or even like Linux or something to get it going. Ooh, I think whether we like it or not, just because of the links Oculus had with NVIDIA and stuff like that, getting the Windows versions of the drivers up to date, it's always going to be difficult. And even, I mean, when we released Doom 3, like we reached out to a couple of people who had Macs just to say, how do you even get this installed? Because even that wasn't clear. So it's really difficult to say that I would recommend that route if you're interested in VR. I think it's going to be a long time before, unless Apple does something themselves, there's going to be any sort of parity there between the PC VR experience.
you've heard about that headset though, yeah? You've heard about the Apple VR headset.
I know they did patents and stuff, and that's where I've not kept up with the news.
Well, the
Is
fact
it coming?
I've just heard it's like $3,000 or some. Is that right, Matt?
Oh,
What you
nice.
might know more about it than I. I kind of switch off to this stuff a little bit because I think one, it's $3,000, so I'm like, that's not really my kind of thing. And I don't try and report on this stuff. Do you know anything more about it? Is there any specs? I mean, is it?
No, there isn't any real information. I don't think, except for it's going to be $3,000 or around $3,000, I think, and I don't even remember. I'd have to look it up. There was some other things that were leaked or
That must
said
be
that
the
it was.
worst news in the world. Apple VR is making a headset and it's $3,000. Like
Oh, it's
the two things don't really make me want to dive in. I'm like,
no. It says that it's supposed to feature 8K displays and over a dozen
that's
cameras.
right, 8K. What GPUs do we need for that?
I don't know. It's going to be supposed to be running on their current M1 chip, I guess, or potentially running on the new silicone M1, which is really a really nice chip. So, I mean, if it did that, it would be interesting to see what it does. I would be less worried about the hardware from that standpoint and more worried about how much there is going to be to do, because even though it's Apple, they're not really I mean, they're not in a situation like Oculus is where they've got a library of titles and people that are ready to bring stuff over. It probably have to be new titles coming to it, probably not stuff that would be ported. At least a lot of the people that I know, their developers, haven't heard anything, and there's some of the popular games that are in VR. So it would be content would be what I would be a little bit more worried about. Plus, they said there's some rumors that it's not going to have any controllers, just hand tracking. So it sounds more like a social device than an actual gaming device.
Are you guys interested?
No, like Grant said, I'm not really an Apple user myself either. So yeah, and that $3,000 price tag's probably a bit out of my range really.
Well, there you go. Backsawn VR, Gorn or The Walking Dead, The Trail. I think he means The Trial, and I think he's talking about Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, obviously, because that's the update. Matt, what would you recommend? Saints and Sinners or Gorn?
Saints and Sinners.
Saints and Sinners.
Gorn's fun for a little while, but Saints and Sinners has a great campaign and it has a lot of fun in the trial mode. Plus, more updates coming. Hopefully, somehow co-op mode.
Yeah, absolutely. That's got to be what it is. Have you guys experienced the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners? Do you enjoy it?
Yeah, I finished that. It is a great atmosphere. I love doing it. I felt it was a tad short. I've seen a couple of reviews that said the same. Like I go through the game, collected, made, crafted all this cool gear, and then the game's just over, and you don't really use any of it, and then you're just hanging out in town. So I'd be looking forward to some updates.
So what you kind of wanted or hoped for was, I guess, some randomized events to keep you in that world.
Just another 5 hours on top. Just like give the devs an extra 6 months, and let them really put in a proper like end to the game. Like the end felt really rushed without giving away too many spoilers. Sort of like they were trying to merge a bit of the Telltale games, sort of Walking Dead choices along with it, and it just sort of petered out for me. But the atmosphere was second to none. I mean, I had some of those VR experience. I think I fell out of the first story of a building, and I just picked up one of I can't remember what the weapon was. It was like this like battle axe type thing, and I just fell out. There were people chasing me. I turned around, there's a zombie there, and just instinctively I like chopped his head right off. And it was the first one where you actually decapitate it, and that was a really cool experience.
That sounds great. They've heard your feedback as well, because GamerChick13, the Diet Pepsi cat, is from Skydance, so that's quality. That's good. Meepa, how you doing? Where are we? Let's just go through some more of these comments before we get into some VR news. Vorpex, have you guys tried Vorpex?
Oh yeah.
And
yeah, I've been using Vorpex since back in the DK1 days.
Talk to me. Sell it to me. Do you like it? Sell it to me. Because I've got it. I'm go on. I'll shut up.
Well, for a while it was kind of the competition, because we were working on Vireo Perception, which was like an alternative open source injection driver. But yeah, what the developers of Vorpex have done with it and how far they've taken it is quite impressive. Must admit, I haven't used it in a very long time, so I can't comment on what it's like now. But
PD is the master of Vorpex, and he's in the chat right now.
Here you go then. Yeah. PD always uses it. I have nothing but trouble with it. It's really annoying. Like I don't know what to do. Some games work fine. Other games, I've got everyone telling me how amazing they are, and I'm just like, this is just not good. I'm not enjoying it. So yeah, I need to.
It's something we were pretty aware of, the sort of challenges, because when we were working on Vireo Perception, which was sort of an open source version of Vorpex, you see the sort of challenges. The last time I tried it, I think Ralph had added some. Basically, there's a way to control the camera, so your head's either controlling the mouse, or you can basically find in memory the sort of values which are the camera in the engine themselves. And if you can hook those, then you get much better latency, and it feels much closer to like a native VR experience. And I think like one of the bigger updates before he added that for certain games. So I would imagine those games would feel a hell of a lot better than some of the other ones. But yeah, just in case, in terms of getting access to a real massive library of games, it's definitely has its place.
Yeah. Mirax off says, have any developers ever contacted you to add VR support to their game?
Well, kind of.
What does that mean? He's like, you can't speak about that anymore.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I have heard from on one occasion I was asked if I'd be interested in you know, perhaps looking at the possibility of getting involved in a project, but it wasn't for me at the time, so I sort of declined it. But no, I mean, you know, the big studios, we've not heard anything from any of them really. I wonder if we just sort of generally fly under the radar for a lot of this stuff, you know, and unless you're actually using SideQuest or you're really into your sort of VR podcasts and news and things, if you're not doing that, you probably miss out on a lot of the information about what is actually out there and available for people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think what becomes like the norm to all of us, there's a community and then there's a tight community, you know, and all the conversations going on. There's tons, but if you step out of that zone, everyone's like, nothing's happening in VR. I haven't heard anything. Have you heard anything? Not really, you know. But inside, there's so much. Even the little things get so hyped. It's unreal. Um, where are we? I don't know. Is there any
It
questions
was
you?
surprising.
Go
So I
on,
was
mate.
just going to say it was surprising even with Doom 3 when we released it, because I just had the assumption that, you know, we'll put a video out on Reddit and then everyone who wants to know about it knows about it. But then we saw like VR Bumser was adding, you know, like a different video every 2 weeks. And every time it would just get all these upvotes and new comments saying, wow, is this available? And it just doesn't, we've not cracked like the best way to get, I think, to the widest audience perhaps or something, or there just isn't a good way at the moment.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I've had one massive video, and it was from VR chat, and it was Breath of the Wild in virtuality. It's a Zelda, so you know. So you're, as I said to you earlier, you know, he's talking about VR FPSs. Someone in the chat, I think, right back at the beginning, said, "What about RPGs? What about games like that? Is there any games that aren't that aren't FPS that you kind of think you would like to add VR to, you know?" And you mentioned Fallout, New Vegas. We went down that. But yeah, with Zelda, I couldn't believe that. It was like, I don't know, in a 10-minute video of just wandering around the Great Plateau, and it just blew people's minds, I think, to imagine, for them to imagine how I felt what I saw, you know, because a lot of those like 250,000 people aren't going to all go out there and buy headsets, and chances are if they've watched the videos because they haven't got virtuality. So, you know, makes you wonder what is the
mm,
thing, what would be the next big thing that isn't an FPS to make in
yeah.
virtuality.
I think if you're not on the Oculus store as well, then you don't have the reach. You know, so SideQuest
Mm.
is pretty big and it's popular and it's an excellent tool, but it doesn't. You know, it's promoted in like the red subreddit for Oculus Quest and Oculus and other sort of VR news, um, you know, whatever you call them, outlets. But outside of that, like I say, if people aren't, you know, I know people who own a Quest 2, but they've never heard of SideQuest. Um, you know, and I've told them, oh yeah, we've done some ports for, you know, Doom or whatever. And they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. But they wouldn't have had a clue otherwise if I hadn't mentioned it to them, you know. And I can't remember what the number is now. Oculus has sold like, isn't it millions of Quest 2s? But I'm sure only a small percentage of that is even vaguely aware of SideQuest. So
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of it comes from YouTube channels and stuff, news like that, and yeah,
Mm.
and if yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I don't. Truth is, I don't know many people personally, and I know with lockdown, obviously, I'm not mixing with many people or anything like that, but I don't know anyone really who's got virtuality as friends. You know what I'm saying? And that was part of the reason I started doing what I was doing because I had no one to talk to it about, you know. And like,
yeah,
you know, you bring the odd person round, they get. Well, I made some silly mistakes putting people in scary stuff, so they never wanted to try it again. And you put someone in a roller coaster and they're sick for like 6 hours, and you know they'll go, "Oh, that VR's brilliant," but they'll never try it again. You know, have you guys ever done that? Have you ever put someone in that VR experience and gone, "Yeah, maybe that was a bit much."
yeah. I made
Mm.
on the DK1 there was this Unreal demo that someone put a roller coaster into, and I made my dad try it, and yeah, that probably wasn't a great idea. Took a while before he was willing to try VR again.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, my wife's sister. It was the Resident Evil torture demo where like your hands are stuck to the DualShock and they're wired together, and the controller actually added to that feeling because your hands were together. And I think she imagined it to be like a 3D movie experience. Yeah, dude, she screamed like, and she's never tried it on again. So, and she loves horror films, and that's the thing. I know so many people like they watch my streams because they're like, what I do. Not a lot of people, but some people they watch my video for 10 minutes and then they play the 10 minutes, and then they watch the next 10 minutes and then they play the 10 minutes because they can't handle what might possibly happen in virtuality because it's going to be so realistic to them. Yeah.
Have you guys tried the multiplayer ghost hunting thing? I saw quite a few videos. Phantasm something.
I'm glad you brought that up, Matt. Over to you.
No, I have not played through very much of it. GT keeps trying to get me to get in and play multiplayer, but I have not brought myself to do it yet.
Mate, that is the
That looks fun. If I'm
scariest.
gonna,
That is the scariest
yeah,
shit.
if I'm gonna
man.
hunt ghosts, I want to do it with friends.
It's terrifying, dude. It is terrifying. Like, I can't explain it. And I think there's haptics in Phasmophobia, or there will be. And I don't know. I might just die on screen or something. Because, fucking hell. Like, I can't. When I speak to Matt, I haven't even done the single player. I haven't. I've not. I can't. I don't think I can go in that game in VR on my own, because as soon as you walk into a house, they use a sound which, because of spatial audio and stuff, it makes you feel like the atmosphere changes. It does something weird to your mind.
Oh,
It's
it
like
does.
a feedback noise or something, and
It's
not
like
it's not very intrusive either. It's
no. It's like when you're doing the tutorial. That's why I haven't made it through the freaking tutorial, because you're out in the truck and it's fine. But you take that key and open up that door and walk into the living room, and something about the atmosphere turns heavy. It's weird. The way they did the sound design in that game, you walk into the location and you literally feel like the environment is coming down on you, and they're like the lights can start to flicker, or even if they don't, this like this sense of dread from the audio that I've never experienced in VR before. It's made me just take the headset off and say no thanks.
Do you know what I think it does, right? I think the people who are scared. Have any of you ever like had that thing when you're a kid where you think something's coming up behind you on the stairs, so you get up the stairs quicker? There's nothing ever there. I think if you're ever that person, don't play Phasmophobia, because it's just so fucking scary, mate. I've run up the stairs loads of times. I've turned the light off and I'm like, shit, I've got to get up them stairs because nothing will get me. And yeah, and then you play Phasmophobia, and yeah, as I said before, and I've said it on the show before, I shouted so loud, I thought I wrecked like my throat and my chest, like screaming so hard at this thing that come at me. I love it.
Speaking of scary games, did you see that not Cosmophobia anymore, they changed the name. Cosmo Dread is coming out next month?
Matt, right. I'm going to pretend you didn't say that, because now we're going to roll into the news.
Okay.
Hold on to your hats, everybody. Boom. Matt was saying, go on, Matt. Take it from the top.
It used to be called Cosmophobia, but the developer changed the name due to the fact that people were getting kind of confused over Phasmophobia and Cosmophobia. They sound very similar, but it's now called Cosmo Dread, which is kind of a cool throwback to Dread Halls, since it's the same developer that did Dread Halls, and it's actually a space-based game that built similar to that of Dread Halls, where the environments are like it reminds me a lot of it just watching the trailer. There's corridors you have to go through, there's enemies that you have to hide and move around. It's not a shooting game. It looks terrifying, and it comes out March 25th actually.
Yeah, so just to add to that, I interviewed this guy, Sergio, ages ago, and the reason I wanted to reach out to him, because there was a game by Firesprite. What was that game? It was so close to like a Dead Space experience. Someone in the chat's going to tell me in a minute, and I'll be pissed off that I don't remember. They even brought it to PC. It was an absolutely fantastic game. I've always wanted Dead Space in VR, guys. Thank you. So yeah, so this is the game. This is one of the games that is going to add on to my hopes that I will get that Dead Space experience. And yeah, when I saw this, I know it's like an indie thing, but this looked. Dreadhall's got a bit of a bashing because of the quality of the game, and I think that's the problem with virtual reality. If you're streaming a game and it's flat, the graphics do stand out quite a lot because the immersion isn't there. It's for the player, but it's not for the person watching. And I think people forget that when they see the graphics. And this game actually looks really quite good, I thought. And this video that we're playing in the center now is from mid 2020, I believe. It's an old video. So, and what did he change the name because of similarities?
Yeah, similarities with Phasmophobia. I guess they talked to even the people over at the Phasmophobia team, and they were okay with it. It's not like they weren't having any issues with it, but they kept having people that were coming to them, thinking that it was one thing or another, and so they just decided it was best off to switch the name from Cosmophobia to Cosmo Dread.
Yeah, I can see that, dude. It kind of makes sense. There's no mistakes there. What did you want to talk about next? So you can tell me about this 120 hertz thing.
Well, there's not really a whole bunch to know about it, really, that except for the fact that the other day or last week, Boz, I think he's the VP of Facebook Reality Labs, was doing an AMA on Instagram and kind of backed up a little bit of what Carmack had said last year when the Quest 2 got its 90 hertz launch. He put a tweet out there saying not to, what was it, something about not allowing the frame rate to just hit the highest. I can't remember how he worded it. It came down to the fact that not to have devs just unlock the frame rate and hit just the highest that the system allows to have to play it at, because when it hits 120 hertz, if the update comes, then it could cause issues with their games or something along those lines. Well, this week the AMA with Boz, or last week, somebody asked him and just simply said 120 hertz on Quest 2 with a question mark, and he just gave a thumbs up in a picture. So now everybody's kind of speculating that they're at least experimenting with it. But like I've said it, I did a video on it, and like I said in the video, and I've told multiple people, if and it's a big if, we end up seeing 120 hertz, I imagine it's probably going to be for PC VR, because I know a lot of Quest developers are having issues hitting 90 hertz just with what they're trying to do on the Quest. So 72 hertz is more doable. 90 hertz is, it takes a lot more effort. And then 120 hertz native Quest seems to be, from the developers I've talked to, would be very difficult to reach unless you really bumped down the quality of the visuals and took away a lot of the things in the game. I don't know much about it, but that's what they've said. So that's why. Plus, the battery power would be massively reduced, I would imagine, because there's even a reduction in battery power from 72 to 90. So going another, 90 to 120 hertz would just be even more battery power. So I don't know if it's actually going to happen. If it does, I imagine it's just for PC VR, probably through Link, which maybe Virtual Desktop can get it working. I don't know.
Where does it stop though? Like, because with Rift S, it was 80 hertz, and I remember all the early bullshit things of people. Oh, it's 80, it's not good enough. It ain't good enough. And then I tried it. I was like, it's fine. I don't know what you're talking about. Seems fine to me. 90 seems great. Where do we get to? What is the point? I remember like 30 FPS on games, and then 60 FPS happened. Everyone's like, we don't want 30 anymore. We're not looking at 30 FPS, dude. If you get 60, we're happy. So where does that go in hertz? What is the point where like everyone's eyes are just going, this looks fine?
I don't know, to be honest. I know that.
What's the highest one? Is it index? Is 140?
Yeah, 144.
Right.
Yeah. So that would be 120 would be what, 24 hertz less than the index. So you're still, I don't know what, like I've used an index. I don't own one. I've used one, and there is a difference when it comes to that, but I don't know if it's enough of a difference to it wasn't enough of a difference for me to buy an index in comparison to something else for VR, just because visually it was interesting, but it didn't warrant the price. If we got a Quest 2 or 3 that had 120 hertz native, it would be cool. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what that stopping point is. I don't know enough about it to know what that point is, where it needs to get to, where it just makes a huge difference and it ends.
I'm the same as you. I've done the index. Have you guys got indexes?
Never even tried one.
No.
So I've same as Matt, and I played whatever the game was that Vertigo got coming out after the fall, and I'm assuming it was full bells and whistles and stuff. And I always find with Hertz, not only is it obviously smoothness, vividness. Things seem more vivid,
Yeah, you get less
constantly.
motion blur, so you're gonna have a lot less motion blur, so it's going to look more like we see in real life.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest difference when you're playing a game, right, on a flat screen. When you go from a 60 hertz television to 120 hertz, or if you're playing something on PlayStation 5, for instance, and you bump it up from 60 hertz to 120 hertz, you can see that visual fluidity, and that's where it's really going to come into, just the fluid motion.
Look, I didn't know this, but Gamer Chica suggested or thinks it might be. Is it two-worded T-shirt day today? But I haven't seen Baggy's T-shirt. You know what we got?
Oh no, I have nothing written there.
Oh, anything on the back?
No.
It's Star Trek though. Have you played Bridge Crew?
Yeah.
I love Bridge Crew.
I've got it, and I played it a couple of times, and I've actually been waiting for a good, like Simon to jump in with me, and maybe get Bumser in there.
Well, if you need a good captain,
yeah, I loved it.
You need a good captain. Give me a.
Yes, definitely.
I love that game, dude, so much. It's so fantastic. Where was we? Matt, yeah, so that's 120 hertz thing. More is better, I think, is by the sounds of it. Next up, because Matt has done all the news for me, because he's Mr. Juicy's birthday. He collected it all. Thank you ever so much. Striker VR.
Yeah, so it's a new haptic gun potentially. I don't really know anything about the company. Initially, I guess they make haptic guns for like VR arcades and like the on-location experiences, and they're supposed to be really powerful. You feel a lot more kick in them. I was reading about it today, and I guess like if you've got a laser blast, you actually is designed haptically to feel the laser charge up as it charges through the barrel, and you can feel it in different spots, and then it fires and does a real blast. Things like that that are really, really immersive, but that don't really get done in consumer VR most of the time. Anything I've tried for haptic guns has all been just a motor in the stock, and it just bounces against your shoulder. It doesn't really do anything. You can feel it a little bit, but that's about all you can feel. And it doesn't even, it's like, it's more of a noise than anything else. But they just raised go ahead, GT.
No, I actually pointed at the screen. There I had a pen in my hand. I didn't know who put it there. It's obviously me. I was looking at that gun, and do you know what? To me, it looks like a missed opportunity because the aim control in PSVR was fantastic. And where's the controls on this? Because that's what you need. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yep. There's some other pictures that have show like a trackpad. Like I think that on the front, that round piece on the front is a trackpad of some kind.
Right.
I'm not sure how it would work. And there's other buttons. There's another picture that was just not, it didn't show very much, just a button. But there is some real buttons on there. I'm not sure how it'll work. Another thing that people are questioning is how it's actually going to connect with like Quest, because they are designing it to come to work with the Quest platform, or at least that's the goal.
Right.
So I don't know how it's going to do that, but they just raised $4 million in investments to expand their line into consumer space. And according to Road to VR, they're going to be looking at bringing the new VR gun to PC VR and Quest. There's no price, but they are shooting for under $500 US. So I don't know much. We don't really know much about it, except for the fact that they're trying to bring the best haptic gun to like PC VR. And
I can't help it. If you haven't got the already not great haptic gun, why are you going for the best haptic gun? Like, where is the, like, that's the thing about the aim controller, dude. I think it was like, what, try and remember, someone stopped me, it might be £80 or something. You got the aim controller and the game, far point and stuff. Like, it's just little things like this. It worries me, that they might get mass adoption. I very much doubt it though for that kind of money.
No.
But yeah, when I saw this, but that's good though. You're talking about trackpads and stuff, and I hope that's the case. I mean, I think what Haptics have done with their more middle range vest, the X16, that's a good idea. Do you know what I mean? Because then chances are people are going to try that, and they're going to go, "Wow, this is brilliant. I wonder what the Fort is like," and then they're going to sell that probably for very little loss. And then check out the next thing. Once again, I think it's another thing of trying it, So just got to wait and see. How's it going, Bazanime? How you doing? You all good? Thank you for joining. How is it, everyone in the chat? Zenith, Zenith. Let me get the
Yeah, yeah.
video up and running, man. Do apologize.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, go for it, man. Go for it.
So I don't really know a whole bunch about this. Have you played this at all? They did like a testing phase. Did you play it at all, GT?
So the name Zenith was a company that sold Windows. That's about all I remember
Okay.
about the word Zenith. So yeah.
So now Zenith VR is a massive multiplayer online VR game. It's like a kind of an RPG. It's like a sci-fi futuristic kind of I don't really know how to describe the setting. It looks interesting, and what you're seeing here is some of the combat examples they just came out with. They just released some new stuff on the blog, the developer blog, and they raised $280,000 on Kickstarter along with other funding. And it's supposed to be coming out to PC VR, Quest, and PSVR, and it looks pretty interesting. I mean, I don't know if you've tried Orbis at all. I wasn't really, it was okay when I first tried it. It's gotten better supposedly, but I used to play a lot of like World of Warcraft. So I used to love like massive multiplayer online games. And the idea of being able to get a group of friends together and quest in, another world in that kind of RPG would be amazing, but it just hasn't happened really in the way that I would love to see. So I'm hoping that this does something different. And it looks like it's kind of a combination of physical combat, like using swords. It still looks like it's role based or point based combat, but it does look like you've got powers. My favorite clip from that when it was showing was when the person raised their hands in the air and brought their hands down, and I think the lightning struck into the people, so there's obviously magic powers and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what it does. I don't really know. There's a whole bunch of information out there about it, but there's no information about when it's coming out. So hopefully we'll have more information on that.
Is it an app lab thing and side quest or something first of all, or
No,
is it just direct?
No, I think their goal is to just release it right on the platform, as far as I know. Right, I know they're headed for PC VR, Quest, and PSVR is their goal. That I don't know what that timeline is going to look like, but they haven't said anything one way or the other as far as whether it's going to side quest or app lab. I think that their goal is just to get rid on the Quest store.
How the hell did you get out of WoW? Because some people, like their wives, left them nearly playing World of Warcraft. So
I played it when I was a teenager. And by the time I met my wife, I was out of it already, so that didn't have to worry about
how did
that,
you get
but
out of it though? Like a lot of people stay in there till there's like
Yeah.
a life live or die situation, and they go, right, that's it.
Well, I didn't get into it that deeply. I fully leveled a couple of characters in the game, and then I played with some friends, and then just my account got hacked for one thing and stolen. And then I was like, nah, I don't care about it enough to get it back. And then like a year and a half later, I got it back again, and it was used as like a mining character, so I had tons and tons of gold. So I just messed around for a while, and then I said, you know what, I'm over it.
Nice. One of your big fans, Doomsly, earlier dropped super chat. Say hello to Dr. Beef and Baggy G. He says hello.
Hello, Doomsly.
Nice. Yeah, is it
I
Doomsly?
recognize him from Discord.
Yeah, man, he loves a bit of Doom, obviously. Yeah, cool. Where are we next? Oh, so
Yeah.
so what we're trying to do, Matt. I haven't tried Orbis. I think recently I read a bit of news that game has been suddenly been picked up a bit higher as in
Yeah.
users. There's more people in there.
Yeah.
I haven't been in there, mate. Well, actually, no, I'm lying. I've been in there once and I didn't know what the hell was going on. So.
If I could do it with some people that I knew, like if we jumped in and messed around together, and I think it'd be fun. And then supposedly the community is really good. I never really got into it a lot, but supposedly, I guess they've got a whole bunch of updates that have come over the course of its life. There's a lot more people in it now, probably due to more people in VR and on the Quest 2. So, I mean, it could be fun. I mean, I've heard good things about it. I just don't have the time because it's one of those games. Those types of games really take a lot of time to level up your character, explore, do raids, stuff like that. And I just don't have the time to put into it.
I just want to scream, Leroy Jenkins. That's all I want to do. Let's talk about that next bit of news, man, about this. Yeah, I thought this was really cool. This
sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
It's essentially potentially a new way for people to experience watching streams and not just watching, potentially other types of feedback. So Sony just patented, or a little while ago, I think, patented a DualSense haptic feedback for video streams, essentially allowing them to potentially have the ability to encode their streams with metadata that's haptic metadata. So when the person streaming from their PS5, for instance, over through whatever streaming platform they're using, is playing the game. If you hold onto your controller, you get haptic cues and haptic feedback while they're playing the game.
And it's
Which would be-
brilliant on PS5.
Yeah. Yes,
Brilliant.
right. And because there's so much going on with that controller.
Yeah.
But it even